Hello and welcome to the McCord List today. I'm Rachel McCord, you guys. I'm so excited to see you, whether this is your first time watching the show or you've been here with me before. I'm so thrilled that we're here together. The McCord List today is all about helping you have life and have it to the full. We share inspiring stories from some of the most amazing people. We talk about being founders, faith, fitness, family, pretty much everything in between, even things that don't start with an F word. Apparently, I just happened to drop that just now. I'm so glad you're here, you guys. Today's show is very inspiring. Luke Endefer is here, and he is going to talk to us as the founder and artistic director of the National Children's Chorus. He's a Grammy Award-winning artist, and he is all about helping you feel inspired that you can truly do it all. We also have the amazing Dino Sutter. He is an executive mindset coach, a motivational speaker, and he created the 12-week program called Retrain Your Brain Method. It is amazing. He's going to talk to us about how to win at the game of life. And he's also going to talk about some stuff that I think will make some of us feel a little uncomfortable, but maybe in a good way, about our faith and about what it means to be accepting of others, even if we don't necessarily agree with them. So I think it's going to be really cool. I love him. I think he's amazing. And I think we all need to remember that wherever we come from, it's important to acknowledge the beauty of this life and how we can accept one another. And so I hope this show elevates your life a little bit. I hope you walk away a little more inspired. I'm Rachel McCord on the McCord List today. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, Luke will be with us in the studio. And we're back with the McCord List today. I'm Rachel McCord here with Luke McKendefer. He is Grammy winner, who is amazing. You have this incredible history, over 20 years in music. Can you talk a little bit about what you've been doing in symphonies with children?
I think this entire journey started off with humble beginnings here in LA, actually, at St. Paul the Apostle School in Westwood. And it really started out just as a program to have a fantastic chorus, and it grew into something not only national, but where the vision expanded to more than excellence. We realized that music was a pathway to a greater understanding of oneself. And so we created an educational platform for children ages 5 to 18 in 2 different divisions, 7 different levels, and we opened in 8 cities across the United States. So currently we have more than 1,400 students, and children get to come together, share their passion for music. They get to go on trips internationally and learn about different cultures and really explore what music can do for you in terms of self-discovery and self-realization.
That's incredible. Now, I have a question. I'm a mom, and I'm always thinking of the things that we can do to layer into our children's lives to help them be more equipped. So, of course, we've heard science around the benefits of music for children, for the brain. What are some of the things that you've seen in your work over 20 years in this industry?
Yes, for sure. Again, like when I first started out as a 26-year-old, the goal was excellence. But as the years went on, we started to see how it was empowering students on a really profound level in terms of their confidence. We'd receive feedback from parents saying that their children were performing better in math and English. Students who were at first afraid to speak up in class were now delivering speeches at major events in school. And so we thought maybe these are outliers right at the beginning, but now the consistency of those stories is so ubiquitous and so consistent across our national membership that we've learned that there's something much bigger at play here. And we've really discovered what music can do, regardless if you're going to go into music professionally or whether music is actually a way for you to learn how to do life, essentially.
That's incredible. Okay, so you've been performing at the Walt Disney concert halls all around the world. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience, what it's like?
Sure. I think that getting to perform in a hall like Walt Disney Concert Hall, for instance, I bought a poster of that hall from the gift shop when the hall opened, and I was just in my early 20s. And I hung it on my bedroom wall, and so I saw it every night when I was about to go to bed, waking up in the morning, and I thought one day I want to conduct in that hall. But I didn't realize that it wasn't it wasn't just about what I wanted to do. It was actually something that we would be sharing with, hundreds, if not thousands, of students across the country. When our national membership comes together and performs at Walt Disney Concert Hall, the hall itself, the architecture, the excellence, the beauty it inspires. It's been such a humbling experience to get to perform at a hall like that, as well as Carnegie Hall, the Kennedy Center. We'll be performing at the Sydney Opera House coming up in July. So it's really incredible how the program has grown. And I believe spaces are much more than just a prestigious name, such as Sydney Opera House or Carnegie Hall. These are spaces that are designed to take music to the next level, both acoustically and also aesthetically, the way that the hall looks and makes you feel when you're inside.
That's so beautiful. What would you like to see evolve in the music industry?
I think a really clear understanding that music affects you. Science is proving more and more that it's not just entertainment. I really think that I even thought of it as something that you do, a hobby. You want to be good at it. But music, we're learning more and more, affects you on a cellular level. I think there was a recent study that showed that Bach's Brandenburg Concerto Number 4, listening to 5 minutes of that was supposed to lower your cortisol levels more than 20 minutes of cardio. So music is transformative, not just for the mind, not just for the spirit, but it has physical realities. It's really changing your body with its resonance. So I think as time goes on, we're going to learn that music is much more effective and influential in terms of supporting our well-being than we've ever known.
Wow, that's incredible. Okay, so I'm sorry, winning a Grammy, like, that is a real moment. Congratulations, both you and the chorus have won Grammys. Can you talk about the moment you first heard that you were nominated to win? I mean, what a huge honor just to be nominated, and then you won it. What was that experience like?
I mean, it was completely unexpected. So we did a project with the Los Angeles Philharmonic, and it was a beautiful performance series. We did Mahler's Eighth Symphony at Walt Disney Concert Hall, and we knew that it was being recorded, but we didn't know everything that was going to happen. And so when the Grammy nominations were announced, I was receiving text messages that morning saying that you received a nomination. I didn't even know what was going on. And so I was deeply honored. And then we went to the Grammys. This was when in 2022, so it had to be moved back a few months because COVID was going on. And it was moved to the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. And then we went there, the four conductors who were nominated, the four conductors who prepared the choruses who sang in it. And then we won the award for Best Choral Performance. So it was incredible. It was really an incredible experience, and I know that everyone there, feels the same way. It's a day we'll never forget.
That's incredible. And it's such an inspiring story talking to you, Luke, because, you talk about having this beautiful poster on your wall since you were a little one, hoping that that would be you someday. And then you start performing in this hall as well as so many others. Then you have this Grammy. I mean, it's so exciting for me to hear because I think that what you're doing is you're studying the brain chemistry and the impact that music is having. So you're looking at it holistically on how it helps not just children, but all of us to listen, to participate. But then you're also giving these children this opportunity to enhance their confidence and believe in themselves. So what are some of the changes that you've seen with children while you've worked with them throughout the program?
I would say confidence and trust in oneself is the main thing that we see. And then that truly applies to every avenue of their lives. So it doesn't really matter what they go into. The majority of our students do not go on to major in music. They major in a list of other really impressive fields. But when you know that you can accomplish a very difficult piece of music when you're 11 and you've sung on a major recording that received such acclaim and is so spectacular, I think that what you prove to yourself is that there really isn't anything that you can't do. And so when you understand that, having learned it on a piece of music, you naturally think to yourself, well, if I can do that, course I can be a bioengineer. Of course I can, be a communications major. Of course I can go into law, because if I can do this, it shows I really can do anything.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Okay, what's next for you? You've taken on so much. What are you going to be doing next?
I think we're really looking at the impact that we're able to create. We're trying to feel that we can identify places where music can make the most difference. We're looking at how we can create greater connections. I think that's one of the things that's so important, is that we're disconnected in so many ways from people across the country. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about the National Children's Chorus, is it's not just one city, one community. It was really important to me to bring together people from different backgrounds, from different places in the country. So at Carnegie Hall just a few weeks ago, we had a performance that featured representation from 8 US cities. And when you understand that we can all agree on music, we can all, come together with this common, with this passion that we share, it helps us see the humanity in each other. And I think that really heals a lot of the extreme polarization that we see and experience, in many ways. And I think that creating that dialogue and bringing people together, recognizing the humanity on each side, is a really important part of creating the unity that we desire.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Luke. Thank you for coming in today. What an inspiring story. I can't wait to be tuning in. I've got to write down that song by Beethoven. Who is it by Beethoven?
Oh, Mahler's Eighth Symphony.
Yes, I need to write that down.
It's on Spotify. Gustavo Dudamel, Ellie Phillips, spectacular music director. You'll love it.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to have you write it down. You're amazing. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm Rachel McCord on the McCord List today. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And we're back. I'm Rachel McCord on the McCord List today with Dino Sutter. He is amazing, a motivational speaker and mindset coach who's helping people transform their lives. You've also created Retrain Your Brain method.
I have.
No big deal.
I mean,
some accolades you've been collecting over the years. Hello there.
Hi, how are you? And thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you. I know you have to say that. Everyone seems to say that. It's like the standard.
I don't think we have to.
You don't have to,
We
but it's a
choose to.
consistent thing. Like, I'm like, thank you for coming. They're like, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what if we just kept going back and forth the whole time?
Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you. And it's like, everyone's like, honestly, I see the gratitude.
Well, I mean, gratitude is a key to really enjoying life.
It's a key to retraining your brain, apparently. There's a
you go.
method there.
I've heard stories. I've
Yes.
heard stories.
I'm excited to be a better person in an hour after I'm done talking to you. Let's jump right in. What is Retrain Your Brain method all about?
Yeah, okay. So Retrain Your Brain is basically a 12-week system that is built on the premise of my overall concept of how you can live life. So I always say life is a game you can win. And there's several reasons I get to that, and I'm going to get into a little bit more. But it's because when you think of a game, how do you think? Do you think, man, this is going to be a lot of work? This is going to be hard? This is going to be uncomfortable? No, games are fun. And how do you get better at a game? You learn, right? Through the process. You're always constantly like iterating, but none of it's work. And yet when you think about life, everybody's like, oh, it's so much work. Yeah. It's so hard. And so when I was coming up with the initial concept for the overall structure of how to win the game of life, it was really based on this premise that we all need to have more fun. And the more fun we have, the more it trickles on and creates a ripple effect in the people around us. And it also gives permission for other people to have fun. And here's the thing, life should be fun. So with that being said, how do we win the game of life? Well, there are 3 conditions, and they're very specific. Condition number 1 is you have to stay in the game. Now, what does that mean? It means you cannot affect the game from the sidelines, the stands, or the couch back home. You have to be in the game. And it shows up in different ways, but that means every day you're making a conscientious choice to move forward, to be active in your life, and not to allow somebody else to determine what your game is, but being active. Condition number 2 is you have to know the rules, right? If you're going to play basketball, you're going to play soccer, you're going to play parcheesi. You have to understand the rules. Well, there's a set system of rules that apply to every single human on the planet. and they're actually the rules of the brain. And I'll give you an example to kind of help you understand. One of the big general rules is that your brain is geared for survival, not success, which means that your brain will actually self-sabotage in order to protect you, to keep you alive, even though it's harming you and hurting you. And there's other ones like your brain loves the familiar and hates the unfamiliar. That's why it's so hard to create good new habits instead of eating ice cream at midnight, which you've done for the last, 3 weeks.
Don't tell people about that, my goodness.
And then there's rule number 3, or condition number 3, is really the big one. And what that is you have to learn how to play your way. And what I always tell people is, listen, 2 of the greatest basketball players in the history of basketball is a guy named Steph Curry and a guy named Shaquille O'Neal. Both playing the same game, both playing by the same rules, but they're not playing the same way, are they? And imagine if Steph Curry grew up with Shaquille O'Neal as his dad, telling him how he had to live the game. You have to stay in the paint, son. You have to jump up and slam dunk every single ball. You have to elbow out everybody else and get your own space. That's fine if he's playing a bunch of 6'2", 180 guys, but when you're playing 7-footers who are 300 pounds, what's going to happen to Steph if he played that way? He'd get bounced around, he'd get knocked down, he'd get his teeth, chipped. He'd get all the balls swatted away. How much is he going to enjoy that game? And what's going to eventually happen if you don't enjoy your game? You go to the sidelines, you go to the stands, you sit on the couch and you watch Netflix all night. And that's what's happened to a lot of people. They don't know how to play their way because they've been trained to live a life and play a game that's not their own.
Wow.
And so now it's time for people to retrain their brain and play their game.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful way to roll it down. So I want to get deeper into each of these because they're so powerful.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important because I think about how many times in my own life I found myself out of the game. And I think a lot of it has become almost like the societal norm to just like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. Like it's like we're watching life instead of living it. Mm-hmm. And I say to my son often, Jude, it's really important that we're not watching life go by, we're living it. So when we'll be driving the car and I'm like, I want to watch a show. I'm like, that's because you've been riding with your dad too much, But I'm like, no, because the world is around us. We're inside our lives. Let's live it. But I also think that a lot of us, it can kind of sneak up on us. Maybe some of us are dealing with guilt or shame or grief, and we've suppressed it so long that we don't really know what to do. So what is the pathway if somebody at home right now is possibly stuck in that experience? How do they get back into the game?
Yeah, well, so first of all, they should know they're not alone, that everybody struggles, right? It's a journey, it's not a destination. I struggle at times making sure that I'm in the game, right? I'll give an easy example. On Monday, I was helping a friend clean out his garage, and he was on the edge of the fires. And so the garage still had ash and dust from the fires, but we didn't realize it. And I just happened to have 1,000 allergies. And one of them, which is pretty severe, is to forest fire. And so after about 10 minutes of there, I was just like I was getting wheezy, and I was like, yeah, I think I have to go. And he was like, yeah. And I mean, we weren't doing much. We were sweeping out, boxing up some stuff so we could have remediation come in. And we should have been wearing masks, but we weren't. But literally on the ride home, I could just feel myself getting tighter in my chest, everything else, I'm going into mini anaphylactic shock. And I know what to do in these situations because when I was a kid, I had to carry around an EpiPen, but as an adult, you just learn what to do. And so I got home, threw off my clothes, took on a Claritin, jumped in the shower, and with the steam and stuff. And for the next 20, 30 minutes, I was just sitting there trying to open things up. My right nostril was completely closed off, because I was trying to sniff in water to clear out whatever ash and stuff was up there. It would not open. This one wouldn't. And so after about 20 minutes in the steam, everything else, you could just feel the body relax.
Wow.
And I could start to breathe again. That's an example of how the body will choose survival over success. It thinks it's protecting you. It's keeping the harmful things away. And really what it's doing is it's insulating us and suffocating us and creating these massive issues that can actually suffocate and lead to death. And so in all of our lives, there are these moments that we have to make choices. And we get stuck and we have all these things pounding against us. And the way the brain works, I tell people this all the time. Your brain is a supercomputer. So there's good news and bad news. Good news, unlimited capacity. to process any program and create any reality you want. Sounds pretty good, right? But there's a catch. 90% to 95% of all the programs we run on a daily basis are on autopilot. And they all come from the past, and they dictate how we interact with the world today, and they limit the world we can have in the future. And so what we have to do is start to understand, what are these programs? So people are typically stuck because they have programs that are making them get stuck. And that program can be, you can't do that. You're not good enough. You're not strong enough. Oh, why you? Why would you be the one? And we don't even know what's happening. It's literally on autopilot. And so when these things are happening, we have to, I deal a lot with my clients with a fun word that everybody loves called triggers. But I always say we need to reframe what triggers mean, because people think of triggers as a negative, and it's really a positive. All a trigger is well, it's an external stimuli that creates a negative emotional response inside you. That's it. And it's always external. It's not from internal. It triggers the internal program that kicks off. But people think of it as bad, like this person triggered me, this person is bad. No, the person's not bad. The old outdated program is bad. You need to update your software. That person is not bad. That fight that you keep having with your spouse over and over and over, that keeps repeating, and you keep saying, I'm going to do it different the next time, the reason why you don't is because it's a program. And something triggers it, but you're right back to it, and you have no control in that moment. And so what you have to do, and what triggers are, which is great, is that it's like putting your hand on a hot stove. I want to feel that it's burning, right? Because then I'm going to take it off, and I'm going to learn a lesson if I pay attention. But what a lot of people do is they put their hand on the stove, and then it starts to hurt, and then they start to blame everybody else around them. I can't believe you're making me do this. This is so painful. This is so awful. And it's because they're triggered and they're in the old program. So they're not in the present, because only in the present can you take your hand off of that stove. Wow. And so that's why people are stuck. And what they have to do is start to discover, what are the programs from the past that are dictating my present and limiting my future? And we all have them, because we were all raised by imperfect people who didn't know any better, and passed along their junk and their programs to us without meaning to.
Wow. Okay, this is amazing. And I love what you're saying, because so many times with my son, I also will say things like, don't let your brain hear you say that. When he'll be like, I can't do that. I'm like, don't let your brain hear you say that, because if your brain hears it, it'll become true for you. So I'm loving this conversation. I want to get into step 2, but I'm going to do it after the break. We'll be right back on the McCord List Today. I'm Rachel McCord, sitting down with Dino Sutter. Don't go anywhere. And we're back with the McCord List Today. I'm Rachel McCord. You guys, you can thank me, because Dino was about to break this down for me on his rules to help you win at this wild game of life. But I told him, wait till we're filming. Sorry to cut you off, but I was like, Dino Sutter is here. We are talking about the rules to life. People need to know this. So jump back in with what you were saying.
So what I was saying, because you had just mentioned that they're very simple to remember, and I did that on purpose, because the way that our brain works is we want to create the least amount of friction as possible to begin, because the hardest thing to do is to start, right? And so I tried to make the concept and the 3 conditions as simple as possible to remember. So life is a game you can win, but there are 3 conditions. Number 1, you got to, do you remember it?
The first one, of course, it's you got to stay in the game.
Stay in the game,
I
that's
almost
right.
got out of the game. I got so scared. I was like, he threw me the ball. I was like, what do I do?
I put you on the spot. No. So, and then condition number 2 is you must know the rules. And then condition number 3 is play your way. So they all kind of rhyme. They kind of flow. It makes it super simple for people to remember. And again, it should be fun. Like, that's the whole idea of a game. Why do we have game nights? Is it so that we can yell at our friends?
I mean, if they're on your team and they're not doing a good job, I say
that's
it's
playing,
appropriate.
right? But that's still playing.
I know.
But it's
I'm
still
so
fun.
competitive.
Yeah.
I had to like unlearn this. I was literally the person who I'd be like, you know what? This is probably like an unhealthy level of, and it's always that thing. Okay, this is really, I just have to address this total sidebar real quick.
Love it.
Because everybody will say like, oh, I just compete with myself if they say they're competitive, right? But I will be honest, like I feel like I finally understand what that means.
Yeah.
Because I genuinely don't go into a room with other people who are winning and think I'm gonna take you down.
That's
I
right.
don't think like that. I genuinely just look at myself so often about like where was I, where am I going, and I just have a very like proactive feeling that every single day I can be a little bit better than I was yesterday.
And you can.
You can if you put a little bit of time, a little bit of energy, maybe just sometimes just a little intentionality. Like I've talked to so many therapists, I've spent so much money on therapy. But what I've learned along the way is that the truth is there's so much that can be done if we actually just commit to the journey, right? You have to commit to the journey of staying in the game,
Yep.
right? And then also understanding where you're hearing someone say, well, just the awareness is such a big piece of it.
That's right. Well, and I love that you use the word commit like 12 times right there, because that's really what it takes. It's really just taking and making your mark in the sand that from now on, I'm going to do it different, because everything I did got me to where I'm at and I'm not happy.
Yeah, that's
So
good.
if I'm not happy, why would I keep repeating the same things and expect a different outcome? So I have to do something different. So I have to choose something different. And iterations, people want, it's like, hey, do you want to make money? Sure. How much money do you want to make? 10 million. Great. When do you want to make it? Tomorrow. That's not happening.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, why don't we focus on making $10 tomorrow? And then the next day, maybe making another 10. And maybe over time, accumulating, building. And we think about that with money, but we don't think about that with self.
Yeah.
And we don't feel like at the gym, what do you want? I want 6-pack abs. Okay, great. How much overweight are you right now? I'm 50 pounds overweight. Okay, great. When do you want it? Tomorrow. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to go into the gym and think, oh, tomorrow I'm going to have these 6-pack abs because I worked out once, right? It's constant exercise, and it's routine, and it's commitment to diet and calorie deficit, and increasing the weight slowly, and figuring out routines and practices that make sense. But we don't do that with the mind. We just assume like our brain is supposed to have figured this all out. But the thing is, we didn't come out with a manual. And we aren't, most of us aren't really educated on our brain, how it works, and how we need to iterate and create things. We look at other people who are amazing.
Yeah.
And we just assume it was always easy for them.
Well, speaking of what you're talking about, I think this is really what the rules are. Like you're talking about the rules of your mind. How did you learn so much about the brain? Should I grab a scroll?
Yeah, I'm like, well, started a long time ago. Well, so when I was young, and we'll get into kind of how I got into the whole business of it all. When I was young, I always had a struggle. And for anybody who's not out there who doesn't know, I'm gay. Growing up in Texas in the late 80s, early 90s, especially in high school, when AIDS was at the height of its epidemic and misinformation, and everybody thought if you were gay, you had AIDS, you were going to contaminate everybody. People in Texas were getting dragged behind trucks, beat up in school, and administrators were saying, well, maybe they shouldn't have been acting that way. That's what I grew up under. Nobody knew, right? Totally passed. And so I constantly struggled with this self-identity crisis of I can either be authentic and be who I am, or I can be accepted, but I can't be both. It's one or the other. And
How
so,
did you learn that?
How did I learn that those two things were options?
Or know that they couldn't coexist?
Life told you.
Wow.
It was real easy. My dad, who's a lovely father, he died when I was 21, was a bit homophobic. So you just hear the jokes. You hear the things and you're like, oh my gosh, well, I can't be that because now it's not safe.
Wow.
I may not have a house. I will lose all my friends. I will lose my identity. I wasn't popular per se. Yeah, I mean, you know me. It's kind of the same way that I was at Bel Air Church, where I was a member of, with your husband. Like, I knew everyone. I had my finger on the pulse. I loved everyone, had a lot of fun, was a connector. That's how I was in high school too. But this one thing could implode it all. Wow. And so it was always this terrifying thing where I'd like cry myself to sleep at night and just beg that God would do the miracle. God, do the miracle, do the miracle. And he did eventually, right? It only took like another 20 years. But the miracle was never about my sexuality. It was always about my self-worth. I just didn't know it at the time. Wow. And when you connect those things and you realize like nobody is ever going to be perfect. It just doesn't exist in this time, in this place. There's only one person who was perfect and he died on a cross. I'm thankful for it, but I don't need to be there. So if I'm not going to be perfect, then how do I move through this life in a way that actually meets Dino where Dino is? And that's where the authenticity started coming in. And it took a while. Like, I don't know if you knew that. You knew I was a youth pastor?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so back in the 60s. It was awesome.
Did you say the 60s?
I always say the 60s.
Oh, but you were not alive in the
No,
60s. I was like, wait a minute, like, who's this alien here?
Well, it's so funny
And
because
what is your serum situation? I like this.
that's right. I'm selling it for $9.99. No,
You've done it all.
I used to say that to my kids. So I was a youth pastor like 2000, 2003, and I used to say, oh, back in the 60s. And they, who were 5 years younger than me, would be like, oh, that makes sense. And I was like, what?
It doesn't. It doesn't
Like,
make sense.
Oh, like, but to kids, they're just like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter. But no, so, I loved being a youth pastor because I got my undergrad, my master's, came out into the corporate world, was like, I don't love this because I'm not making impact. And I want to change people's lives, but selling real estate really isn't doing it for me, right? So I started to look and explore, like, what other things could I do? And because I didn't want to go back to school and get another degree in psychology or something, I transitioned and said, well, I'm just going to be a youth pastor. And so started growing a really successful youth ministry, which was really great. And then I started speaking on stages. And, some of my contemporaries run some of the largest churches in America right now. And we were all in this up and coming. The challenge was the more people I spoke to, the more people who knew who I was, the more terrified I got. And it's funny because I speak about this. It literally started shutting down my system. Remember how I told you, survival over success?
Yeah.
I started not going to meetings with our pastor that were just me and him. Just would skip it. Not email, not text, nothing. I set up these programs in the community that were making massive impact in kids' lives. And my assistant would be there and she'd be like, I don't know where Dino is. And I would just be holed up at home watching TV and trying to get out of my head, terrified
that you would found out.
And here's the thing, in church back then, you could be a sexaholic, you could be an alcoholic, you could be a drug addict, all those things they would help you with. Gay, you're out. And so it was this terrifying thing, like everything that I built, my social structure, my financial structure, my career aspirations, all tied into this one thing where one little thing could knock me over and implode everything. So that was the impetus. That combined with everything else was always this impetus to, I got to fix my brain. There's something wrong. I've got to fix this. How do I do that? And so therapy, conferences, retreats, books, did all these things. And I started pulling these little bits and pieces from all these giants, right? We always stand on the shoulders of giants. And synthesizing in a way that I could understand it and start having massive breakthroughs. Wow. That's what led me to do what I do now, is that I started sharing it and all these other people started having massive breakthroughs and they're like, where do I get this? How do I do this? And I was like, they're like, no, you have to do this full time. And that was the transition where I was like, oh, maybe this is something that can make an impact in people's lives. So
I just feel like I almost see you like this incredible success story on the outside of your walls of your home. And then like in your home, it was almost like it was so dark and you were so hidden, like almost in the corner, like terrified of being seen for who you were. And then, it's interesting because I've studied psychology a ton. I've read over 1,000 self-help books. And I've learned, and part of my journey is that, our secrets keep us sick. So here you are, like helping so many people and then feeling like you need to hold this within. And it's almost like you ripped the top off.
Yeah.
Okay, hold that thought. We'll be right back, you guys, with the McCord List today. I'm Rachel McCord. This is so precious. Don't go anywhere. And we're back with the McCord List today. I'm Rachel McCord, sitting down with Dino Sutter. This is the interview you're going to remember, you guys. Wow. We're getting in.
Yeah, we are.
We're going deep, deep waters. This is powerful. So we've talked about kind of the 3 conditions to win at life. Make it a game, have fun with it, but make sure you stay in the game, you know the rules, and you play your game your way.
Good.
Right? You're leveling me up just sitting with you. I was able to break in a very emotional moment, which has been my issue so far. I have not been able to do that. So I was kind of proud of that. But I want to get real with you because I think this is definitely really deep what you're talking about, and kind of going back to that vision, seeing you in that journey of kind of collecting these accolades, winning, helping people transform their lives. But on the inside, having such a crippling fear someone was going to find you out. And if they did, it would all implode and you would be unacceptable. So it's almost like the journey of ripping the roof off and letting the walls fall down and let the pieces fall as they may. So when and how did you decide to share your story, the true you?
Oh man, that took a long time. It wasn't until later, in my 30s, before I started really even opening myself up to the possibility that existed. And there was actually a pivotal moment. I met somebody who was at church, who was a friend in the same friend circles, who everybody loved. He was awesome, clearly gay. But when you would speak to him, you'd be like, oh, how's dating going? He's like, oh, well, I dated this girl, but, and I'd be like, girl, like it was just so obvious,
Yeah.
and yet so painful. And you could also tell he was a bit depressed. And I thought, man, that's going to be me.
Wow.
And I don't want to not have hope in my life for love or for the potential of sharing my life with someone else. We were built to be in community. That's why there's a triune God, right? There's the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. They're always in community with each other. We're designed to be in community. And I didn't want to be a lone wolf sitting out there, never being authentic with myself or anyone else. What's funny about this, I'm going to jump into a different story, when I told my mom. So we were in the car we had a timeshare in Florida, and she picked me up and I'd asked my sister specifically, do not come with mom, have her pick me up by herself. Because I told my sister over Christmas that year in the car by herself. And so I leaned over to mom and I just said, oh, so I've got something to tell you. And she said, okay. And I said, so I'm gay. She was like, okay. And I was like, okay, wait, what do you mean? Like, you heard me, right? Like I said, I'm gay. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, did you already know? She was like, well, no. And I was like, you're handling this really well. And she was like, all I want you to do is be happy. And I said, okay. And she said, are you happier? And I said, it's not easier. And I don't know if I'm happier, but I am more authentic. And because I'm more authentic, I feel like I'm more in my skin and I'm more who I'm supposed to be. So I'm more in joy than happy. And she was like, leans over, grabs my hand, she goes, good. And that was it. That was the whole coming out process to my mom. Yeah, it's
So
really
it
special.
sounds like the best reaction is just to accept and to be filled with love.
Yeah.
It seems like maybe the journey of your own spirituality has probably been a little bit more up and down. Is there anything that you feel needs to evolve and change?
Well, I mean, listen, I love God. I love Jesus. I love the church conceptually. I think the church just fails us often. And I think what the church does is, and I get it because we're all men, right? And we all want to be in control. It's the original sin, right? We all want to be God and we want to be in control. So what happens is in the church, people put rules of what it means to be in church. What does church look like? What's acceptable? What's not acceptable? And so people start doing fashion shows and people start, showing up with everything. And then they look at other people who aren't showing up the same way and they start judging. And we all know what Jesus said about judging, right? And so the reality is and the reason why people judge is because they're judging themselves. And so if we can get more and more authentic about our own stuff and really release all the judgment about everything that's going on with us, then we have no need to judge anyone else. And so if somebody else shows up looking schluppy, they're there. Who cares? Let's do this. And if somebody doesn't meet your exact same theology, who cares? They showed up. They're there. And there's different denominations for a reason. There's different versions of Christianity for a reason, because we all need to approach it in a different way, and it's okay. We just need to, as Christians, understand that there's no one way to do church and do life unless you're just going to talk about doing it with love, because that's the only thing that's going to unite. And if Christians did better at love than judgment, then nobody'd have a problem with the church today.
Wow. I mean, that's quite a cliffhanger. Thank you so much, Dino. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being so raw and real and sharing your heart. I think it's a huge eye-opener for all of us. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. That's our episode of the McCordless Today. I'm Rachel McCord, and I can't wait to see you next time.